Hello, everyone.
But the primary uh, or core concept of this particular session would be starting with the generative AI. All right, so let's get started. As I said, I was asking a question, so hopefully you got my question. So, how many of you know about the generative AI? The people talk about generative AI every now and then today. What we are going to do, it is just an extension to the generative AI implementations from the developer point of view. So what developer would be looking for developing AI applications using large language model from the generative AI. That is one. But how many of you are familiar with, okay, so you said you have some basic about the Gen AI. Okay, all right. Now, let me just quickly give you, before we go into the introduction to the LangChains, although the LangChain would be the primary focus for today's webinar. But we all of us need to know, so we have two different type of artificial intelligence. One is traditional. Okay, so I built a couple of product using the LangChain and the LangGraph and deployed in the production. Okay, that's great. That is very good. Okay, right. So what I was about to explain, we are currently in the era of two artificial intelligence. The number one is your traditional AI. So what it does, the traditional AI is capable of predicting, traditional AI is capable of analyzing, right? Traditional AI is capable of doing classification. So when I say analyzing classifications in a particular object, like through an AI, we can ask what the AI can see in a particular photographs or image, what they can see in a videos, so how they can analyze the content they have identified in the videos and the photos or images, or maybe texts. We have been talking about something to do with sentiment analysis, that you can figure out what sentiment the customer has written review to a particular product. With the help of AI, we'll get to know. So we don't need to deploy the human to do all kind of activities that is being offloaded to human. And that is being done by traditional AI so far. But today we talked about generative AI. So your traditional AI has moved into a new era of artificial intelligence through which we can generate the new content. So generate new content is a new concept in the artificial intelligence. The content can be in a form of text, content can be in a form of images, content can be in a form of videos or musics. But what is the workflow to do this? The workflow is pretty simple. So you have to write what you want, and it goes to the large language models or any generative AI models which is capable of responding to your queries by generating the content, the original content. You can ask LLM to write a application or a letter or a story or a blogs or a technical articles. You can ask those models for generating an image by explaining what you want, what kind of image that you want to generate. You can explain by writing an input text that I want to create a video by explaining a particular situations, particular context. So essentially, we are going to write the input to the model, and model is going to take this input and generate the content for us. That's a simple workflow in the field of generative AI. And the input is being called as a prompt. in today's context. So we have to write the prompt, and subsequently that prompt will go into the LLM, and LLM process the prompt, and it will generate the relevant response based on the context of the prompt that we have written to the LLM or any other the foundation models that is available in the field of generative AI. But that is a very simple workflow that we are talking about, because see, you are not going to develop those LLM. That the LLM is being developed by different vendors like OpenAI, Microsoft, AWS, Google's, Anthropic's, or maybe Hugging Face, which is a community based LLM repositories. And you can go on, NVIDIA's, or maybe Databricks or Snowflake. So you can go up to all the vendors who has trained the LLM, who has trained the foundation models, and I can consume from my application, and I can write a prompt to get response accordingly. It's a pretty simple way of explaining what is happening around us today in the field of generative AI. So people started talking about, okay, what about the chatbot that you have already used the artificial intelligence to answer your queries, like customer support chatbot typically use uh, you know uh, typically you used to do the conversations with the uh, conversations with any kind of customer support on a particular product, like. So your experience with that, now you're trying and infusing this AI capability into those chatbot, but this time you are going with something completely new. As I said, it is not just Q&A kind of chatbot that we have developed in the past. This time the chatbot can be independent to generate content based on your need, based on your prompt. So that is the kind of okay. So that is the new what you call it, the new way of interacting with the generative AI so far. In this context, what we are going to look at in the from this today's topic point of view, that is a background that I have given you. So what is happening today with the generative AI and what we do usually with the generative AI model. We simply go and write prompt and we get response. So there are a lot of ready-made product also, like you may be using ChatGPT so far, because that is the easily accessible product to all of us. You can enroll for the paid version of the ChatGPT, or maybe you can go with the general version of the chat gpts to kind of interact with LLM, large language model, to get response based on your prompt. You may be familiar with those products today because everybody is using that. The question is that as a developer today, if I have to develop that kind of application for my customer, for my customer support, or for my business domain, so how am I going to start with that? So what kind of framework that we'll look into? If so coming back to the point, what I was trying to explain, that what if somebody has asked you to develop that kind of application like Chat GPT. So, and one more thing, the Chat GPT is very generic. Like you can ask Chat GPT any questions, and the model behind the interface is going to give you the response. Yeah, so that is what you are experiencing. But it may not be the case when you develop like today's modern AI applications. It may be specific to your domain, the business that you are doing. Suppose you are building a customer support for an Xbox gaming console. So it means that particular chatbot is going to only answer around the Xbox gaming support. I'm just hypothetically giving an example. It can be in the healthcare, it can be in the hospitality industries, it can be in retail, or it can be in some other domain. I'm just saying. So you have to develop today a specific application around your business domain by taking the advantage of those model which is being publicly available to get response in any subject. So you have to go and kind of fine tune those model, or you have to go kind of align those model to your own need. The question is that how you're going to develop that kind of custom application. You may be a Python developer, you may be some other uh, programming language based developer. Okay, so 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 how you are going to go and kind of develop that application? So that is something that we need to figure out. So that's how today we are introducing a kind of framework, what you call as a LangChain, that will make our LLM applications more robust. You know, that we can be more flexible to put things together to make a complex, to develop a complex AI based applications in order to consume those LLM in our own terms and conditions, in our own business domain, as I say before also. Now, if you technically go and take a look, so what is possible around this particular framework? So by definitions, you can be a very the one-liners, but yes, there may be a multiple components this particular framework is going to give us. So it is not possible to talk about everything because this is something a very kind of overview on this particular subject. So the next session would be going into the level 200s and 300s and 400s, going into more deep dive using a LangChain. So if we look into the component of a LangChain, so primarily it is a libraries. You are going to make use of a lot of objects while you will be building your AI-based applications by incorporating that library into your applications. It's like incorporating those packages into your application, right? So you're going to get functions, you're going to get objects and the classes that you typically go and use to make it more flexible while you'll be developing application around the LLM. Getting into a templates, like template is a core concept of LLM applications because by definitions, what is template? Templates are reusable format. So I can go and tell the LLM under which context the LLM is supposed to respond. So that is only possible by creating a template. It cannot be dynamic every time. The value of the template can be different. But the structure, I said, okay, I'm developing a kind of chatbot for an Xbox, the game console, customer support, something, customer support chatbot that I'm referring to. So in that context, what? So you're going to tell the LLM, whatever the LLM that you are going to use behind that application, you are going to tell exclusively saying that, yes, you are an artificial intelligence system. You're supposed to answer only the Xbox related questions. So that is going to be defined by creating a ready-made template and applying the template while we are going to communicate with the LLM, that the LLM would be aware of the context under which the LLM is supposed to respond. So technically speaking, the template is going to play a very important role for crafting your prompt to get the maximum out of the LLM. So LangChain is going to give us a kind of object model through which we can create template and keep on reusing this template across our application. as long as the definition of the template will be fit into the respective application. So from the reusability point of view, so to enhance the productivity among the developers, we can definitely use one of the most used component from the LangChain is called templates to contextualize the conversations with LLM, to control the conversations with an LLM, to give an input example with to LLM that how the LLM is supposed to respond. So I can go on and on. So what possibly we can do with the template. The Lang server is a specialized again a library converting the Lang chains into a REST API. Now today what is happening here? I mean like I don't have to tell you what is REST API all about. Right? So we have been developing REST API in Python or .NET and Java. So REST API does not have any kind of UI. So it can be reusable uh, application programming interface that anybody can make a call from any application rather than building an entire application, writing the logic inside an application. So you should be able to kind of, write the complete workflow to work with the LLM and publish as an API and consume from the client applications. And that is something very, very interesting. Like your .NET application has given us by using a specific libraries, Java also given the same, or Python also given the same kind of services or facilities that we would be able to develop some kind of REST API. And those API can be reusable across the application developed in heterogeneous language and tools. So this is, in my opinion, one of the most important the functionality or features of the LangChain. So anything that we develop in LangChains with the help of a libraries that can be published as an API, make it available to the rest of the world and they can consume as a reusable component at the end of the day. The LangSmith also a comprehensive developer platform designed for debugging and testing. That would be definitely, you know, going to follow you because you cannot take your application to the productions without kind of getting into this test environment, without getting into a staging and taking it to the productions by using tools and technology that will do the functionality test. So you're going to get a out of the box kind of framework, the libraries from the LangChains to do those activities before we take your applications back into your production server. And finally, the LangGraph. Uh, So LangGraph is also a kind of, if you go back and understand the fundamental of graph. So graph is not something new that we are talking about today. So graph is a interconnections between the edge and the nodes. So every edge is basically going to exhibit their respective functionality. So how we are going to put them together by interconnecting those nodes to make your LLM to the next level, take your LLM to the next level of applications, more complex, like connecting with um, different system. Because today enterprise applications that if you think about it may not be only talking to an LLM. Today we talk about agentic AI. I mean, this is the beginning of uh, the lang graph getting into an agentic AI. So it means when you look into an enterprise applications, you don't straight go and give the response to a particular prompt. So you sometimes can be autonomous to respond, to manipulate the response that your end user is asking by connecting to an ecosystem, the connecting to some subsystem. So how you are going to integrate those subsystems together to make it more meaningful within an enterprise. Because any enterprise application is not built upon in one components, one application, so one backend, right? So that is going to be kind of yes, I mean like going into the ecosystem of an AI in the enterprise context. Okay, so what value does the Lang graph add given that we already have the Lang chains for building agent and using, okay, given we already have. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out your question, what you are asking. Now I'll go back and just give you a quick example. Uh, See, when you talk about some kind of workflow today, the workflow is a set of activities, Then to complete a workflow, all the activities within the workflow need to be successfully executed. So if one of the activity has not function, the one of the activity is not working, so you won't be able to complete your transaction or you won't be able to complete your workflow. So it would be rolled back. So there is some kind of interdependency in a distributed environment within an enterprise. That's what I just talked about. So in an enterprise system, it is not just one to one kind of things, because there is a lot of system that you need to build around. Because when you make an applications, it will go for an approval, then it will go to another departments and asking, reallocating that resource with some other resource, something like that. That until the whole things would be executed successfully, you would be not granted a leave. And that's a kind of workflow. But to complete that workflow, you need to connect with the multi-system, multiple multi-actor applications. So who will contribute? Who will be taking a state of a particular activity is going into a next state, that next state can operate on the state that is being generated by previous one. So it's like, so this is a kind of eco, as I said, eventually we are just beginning to understand the LangChain at this moment, but the Lang graph is an ultimate one. That is the ultimate one. It's talking about mainly the enterprise ecosystem, putting things together, right? So I'm just giving an analogy to make you understand. It's a kind of workflows, the activity by their own independent things, but how do you connect them to complete the workflows? If one of that activity is not working from the workflow, you're supposed to roll back that. You're supposed to come back that. So this is happening. I mean, it's like, of course, the back of everything would be a LLM, but before you get an LLM, you need to do many things. Uh, to kind of complete a particular workflow, right? So this is how it is going. The component again we'll talk about quickly by kind of taking an example. So there are few terminology you must be aware of. The people who are new to that someone has saying it's just the basic of Gen AI. But when you get into the world of developing a Gen AI application with a LangChain, so you should be aware of the few terminology. That terminology could be the prompt. That's what I was just explaining some time back. The model, the interface for language model that use the chat message as an input and return the response that we are talking about. At LLM, I have been talking about because this large language model is the brain of everything what we are discussing as of now. Eventually, the LLM is going to generate the response for your prompt. So these are the terminology, but it is not just a terminology. In fact, when you have to develop, you need to go and understand the deep dive for those terminologies. So what is called prompt engineering? Because today we talk about something called prompt engineering. So how you're going to write an effective prompt. That is a kind of talking point. If you really work in the field of generative AI, so you need to know what is prompt engineering. So what LLM is be best kind of fit into your requirement kind of things. There are lots of LLMs available from multiple vendors, from the cost, from the performance, from the deployments point of view. You should be able to figure out so what LLM is going to give you the return of investment that you are going to make for your application. Because normally the LLM are pretty expensive. Now, how LLM works also, sometime you may need to go into the look into the architecture of an LLM also. Like we talk about transformer model, but how transformer model works. So what you are going to do in an application to reduce the processing of the token by an LLM, because more token that is get processed by an LLM, you are going to pay more, right? So this is something programmatically you can take control of by setting different parameters to do that. So that will come out of the box from the LangChain. So LangChains will give you that facilities to control the number of prompt that so number of the token that you want to consume, number of token that you want to restrict while your LLM is going to create response. Okay, so I think the retrieval also another part of this. I already referred one concept before, like today, uh, we are not supposed to use the generic LLM. Okay, so we are not supposed to use the generic LLM anyway, because we need to customize the LLM to just to make everything align with what we want. And that's how the retrieval will come into the picture. In fact, in practical implementations, that would be called as a RAG, retrieval augmented generations. So you will be able to produce your own private data to the LLM. And while the LLM is going to respond, so LLM will look into the your own private data and try to give you the response rather than what LLM knows at that point in time. So you can overpower the knowledge of the LLM by providing your own data. That's how it's called as a retrieval augmented generations. And LangChain has beautifully designed those components through which we can develop that kind of custom applications to work on our own data. And that is all about retrieval and getting into an embedding in the vector stores. Because all the LLMs that we are talking about, they process data, informations in a form of vectors. Vector is nothing but a set of numbers representing a token, representing your word that has come from your prompt. All right. And of course, the response that you are going to get, that would be generated in a form of token. And that is also being broken into a set of numbers represented by a vectors. Now we say is like, the machines like to work in numbers, unlike the human. The human maybe like to work in the text-based data, but machine would be more fond of going after the numbers, because mainly the machine learning and deep learning model that we are talking about, whether the GPT-4 or GPT-4 GPT 3.5, or maybe any other LLM that I can talk about, like from Google or AWS. So there are different, the name of the LLM that, so time to time that we have come across. But the GPT is one of the most popular LLM that people use today from their application. But more or less, all the LLM is going to give you the same kind of response. But how do you fine tune to work on your own data by using something called retrieval augmented generations? By storing the data in a form of vectors to make it equivalent to the LLM. So how quickly the LLM understand in a form of vectors. There is a lot of vector database popping in today. We talk about Pinecone, one of the popular vector DBs, where the vectorized data can be stored, means your private data can be stored in a form of vectors. When the prompt will come, so it will go into the vector database and fetch the contextual data, the semantic data, and give it to the LLM, because LLM only can generate a response for you. So it's a contextual data that you would be providing to the LLMs, and LLM is going to create a response out of it. So you will be not outdated, means you will be not going to see the generic information that is coming from the LLM, how it was trained. It's completely different. So these are the interesting subject, I guess, like going forward. So you will be looking at. Okay, so that is something probably one of the most interesting one. And compositions and uh, additional options would be always available with that. I mean, composition is all about integrating with agent, creating a kind of activity chains, putting it together in an enterprise. So you will start with that. But the net, just to conclude that conversations going into the actual demo to just to showcase what I have been talking about, like a glimpse of implementation that you will be able to figure out what I'm talking about with the help of LangChain. As I said, it's a very short period of kind of the training. So I would like to take you through the concept around the and bit of implementations that you will be able to anticipate the kind of the workflows or the kind of interconnections of those terminologies that I was talking about in my conversation. So what I will do now, so with that, the rest of the presentation would be available with you, so you can go and take a look. But the core component, what I'm discussing at this moment, this is the all, so that can be extended to the more elaboration. So you can find it from the PPT, which is being uploaded to the shared folders. You can go through that. But now I would like to give a demo and walkthrough by developing a simple application to figure it out what is the importance of the LangChains as a frameworks in an LLM development context. So let me kind of take it to another machines. Share again my screen. Okay. So hope you can see my screen now. So I'm just going into another machines to give a quick demo to you. Okay. Just give me a minute. Okay, so I'm saying again, so hopefully you can see the screen that I'm sharing, a desktop that I'm sharing. Okay, perfect. That's fine. All right. So what I'm going to do, so first I need an LLM to be used behind my application. So first I will deploy an LLM by using my own infrastructure. So I'm using Microsoft Cloud Platform. I'm currently in Microsoft Azure, the cloud platforms, where I can find an LLM to deploy. So I'll go and do that first. That's number one, because the LLM is the backbone of everything that I'm talking about. So first we'll start with the LLM. So I'll go and create a Azure OpenAI service. This is an API. So I'll create a group. So I'm saying demo LLM group. So I'll go with the STUS2. I'm giving again demo LLM service. Okay, and then I go and select my pricing tier, means how am I going to pay for this OpenAI service. So this is my step number one. So I go and create that service. But this service is currently empty because service need to connect with a large language model, which is the brain of your AI application. Okay, so that is what we are going to do. Figuring out what LLM I would like to select, I would like to deploy behind this particular API. That API will connect us to the LLM. An application will use the API credential, like what is the URL of the API. This is the API that we have created as your OpenAI service. So if somebody wants to consume this service, we can make use of these keys and the endpoints. So that is the key and the endpoint from our applications, whether it is a Java, Python's, .NET applications, we should be able to kind of use these credentials to get access to an LLM through this service. But LLM is not yet present because it's an empty service at this moment. It's just a skeleton of this particular service. So we have to have an LLM behind the service. So then how do I go and deploy a LLM for this service? So I'll go to the overview and there is a link called go to Azure AI Foundry portal. So let me go there. And if you go to the model catalog, the first options in the Azure AI Foundry, so you get to see the list of models. In fact, you can go and select based the task wise also. But yes, you are looking at the list of models. We have been talking about something like GPT-4, GPTs, DAL-Es, embedding that we are talking about, the whisper that we are talking about. So you can see the list of, in fact, if you want to really go and see the whole list, you can go to the uh, your Cloud Foundry itself. So you are going to get the list of the model from here also by looking at what model that you would be, I mean, like, so basically I'm saying that not necessarily I'm going to use only this model, like 25 model that you can see, but that there are many more in the catalog that you can see. But the fundamental concept would be the same. So it may be a multiple vendor is trying to produce, trying to market their model by putting into the marketplace. It is up to me which model that I would like to go with. Suppose hypothetically, I would like to go and deploy a model called GPT-4 behind my service. You can see my service name is on the top right corner of my screen. Here it is. So I said, let me go and deploy this model. You can talk about what this model does and all these things. So I simply go and deploy these models behind that service with all the default configuration. So model is being deployed. In fact, I can go to the deployment tab now. So I can see how many model is being deployed so far. There's one model deployed under this service. So hope you are having the clarity. The two things that we did. First, we create the service and then we deploy a model inside the service. Now, question is that can we deploy more than one models? Yes, we can. So we can go into the same place and I say deploy the model, I can pick up, right? So suppose I want to deploy another model called GPT-35 Turbo 16K. So GPT-4 is pretty expensive most of the time, but GPT-35 Turbo 16K may be slightly less expensive in compared to the GPT-4. But yes, it is also a kind of the good model that we can use behind our LLM application that we are going to develop. So we just need to change the name of the model from our applications. My, what do you call, my API will remain same. I don't have to create another API for using another models. No. So I can have multiple models under my same service. Okay. So the task number 1 is done. So what was the task number 1? We have deployed the LLM using Azure OpenAI service, because LLM is not directly accessible from the uh, from our this platform, means this Azure platform. So we need Azure OpenAI to get access to the LLM at this moment. Okay. In other case also, if you're working with the OpenAI today, I'm not saying this OpenAI, Microsoft OpenAI, different vendors altogether, where the GPT was introduced for the first time, but Microsoft took from the OpenAI and made it available in their own platform. Okay. So step number 1, I'm reiterating myself. The step number 1, we have deal with LLM using Microsoft Azure cloud platforms. And by deploying LLM behind our Azure OpenAI service. Now, every time I'm going to make a call to the OpenAI service from my applications, it will go and call the respective LLM that I have deployed just now, but we have to mention which LLM that I'm going to use from my application. Okay, so that is the first steps. Now coming back to the application development, where we are going to look at the LangChain as a framework in order to consume this Azure OpenAI service. So I'll take you to one of my quick, very simple applications that to make you understand the core concept of the LangChain. So I'll open this code in my Visual Studio Code. So first thing what we are going to do, so we are going to go and replace those informations. Okay, so that is what you can see at this moment, but it is already with me. So I'm using the text embedding also at this moment, which is already being deployed in my separate. I can continue with this only. This is perfectly fine at this moment because I have already deployed. I can show you that what I'm using rather than using. I don't want to change, but the concept is remain the same. So I have another set of deployment already. So if I go to my so I can see there is another sample OpenAI service. I can go to the AI Foundry, same place like I was in some time back. And from here, I can go to the same place like deployment. So I have a set of model I have already deployed. Like one of the model like text embedding ADS002, GPT-4, GPT, it's like same. No difference. I can pick one of the model from here. So already this application is being configured with this model with the keys and everything is there. So I don't have to change. I don't have to spend timing and getting those keys. This key is already being used. Okay, so this key is already being used there. So I'll stick to that. Only I just wanted to walk you through. So how the LangChain is going to uh, kind of enhance the applications that I'm going to explain in order to consume those LLM from this Python application. So there is, I'm trying to connect to a vector database also, but this is not I'm using from this application, but I'll walk you through because there's a different concept altogether. To creating a Pinecone will take time. So Pinecone is a vector database where we can store our private data like retrieval augmented generations that we talked about. So we can store inside the vector database in a form of vector. I already explained that. And that can be given to the LLM to consider the context while the LLM is going to generate the response based on the prompt. All right. So with that, I'll go to the application. So I can make it use of an .env file also. So if you are a Python developer, you are familiar with both way. So .env is where we can go and store data in a kind of key value pairs. The same one here also deployment name GPT-4. So .env also we can use. We can use this also either. It depends what type of programming that you would be writing. So more or less the same. So I have included the GPT-4 here also with my existing model that you can see from here. Because you can see this, these are the model that I have already deployed, which is working fine. No need to change anything, but conceptually you need to understand what you're supposed to do or what is the basic information that you need from your application in order to interact with the LLM. As I said, you need those informations, the informations like the URL. So where do I get this URL? This is the URL that I'm referring to from this OpenAI service. The keys that I talked about already, the OpenAI version review, so you will get it in the service only. Deployment names, so since we have already deployed GPT-4, and if you work with the database, then detail of the database also can be put in here because it's all about the vectorizations that I talked about in my previous one also. I deployed in the AWS environment with an index called Pine Index and so on and so forth. And to create a vectors, we need a model called text embedding other 002. This model is being used for converting your token, means the text into a vector representations to store inside the vector database. And that is also kind of going to be used by LangChain code eventually. So let's go and explore the application. As I said, it's a basic application for make you understand because all may not be familiar with this particular framework. So what I did first, I have gone and install the LangChain community package and the LangChain also. So if you are a developer, you know how to install those packages. So once the packages is being installed, so I have a virtual environment here. So I have created a virtual environment here. So where all the packages is being installed because that is the best way of developing applications using Pythons, that you do not have to install everything in the system level. So you can install the prerequisite into the virtual environments and you can test your applications before we put them into the production. So these are the few LangChains libraries component that I was talking about sometime back in my PPT presentation. So practically we are incorporating in my code by just installing them explicitly within my virtual environment where I'm developing this LLM applications with the help of LangChain. But before we do any activities, the first thing first, what is the first thing that we need to get? The first thing we need to read those informations, crucial informations, which is available by using get.env, means I'm reading it from this .env file. Okay, so that is something that we are doing here. Or if I want to read it from this one, the syntax would be slightly different. Okay, so that is what we are going, and get.env will just go and simply uh, read those keys values that we stored inside .env file. And then I'm using a Streamlit to get an UI. Streamlit is a kind of a tools with a set of the packages. Also, I have installed the Streamlit also, through which we can create some kind of UI along with the Python development. The quick UI rather than going into an explicit the Flash or an HTML templates and so on and so forth. So one-liner will going to give us uh, one-liner is going to give us the UI. Then what we are doing at this moment. So we are using the LLM from this is where the most important things has come into the picture, saying I'm using open Azure Chat OpenAI, which is basically coming from the top, which was a LangChain underscore model. So this is means a part of the LangChain libraries, what we have been discussing so far, right? So we are creating an object by instantiating Azure OpenAI, which is part of the LangChain. So what it's being done here? So it says that what is the name of the model that you are going to connect? The LangChain is giving a very structured way of doing it. And I do not know whether you do not know about these two parameters that is setting along with this open Azure chat OpenAI. The temperature value can be in between 0 and 1. If the value towards the 0, you are going to get more concrete response from the LLM. If the values towards the 1, you are going to get more dynamic response, more innovative response from the LLM. So if you want to stick to a default values in between 0 and 1, so zero point 0.7 would be an ideal one, because you also want to innovate something without losing the context, because of course you are not going to lose the context that you set at the beginning. Okay, so that is not anyway is not going to change, but yes, the value of the temperature as a parameters to this particular object is going to dictate how LLM is going to respond to your prompt, right? So whether you want a very dynamic, very innovative response or a very concrete, the hallucination free kind of, response that you want. So by setting the number against this parameter called temperature. Then you have a max token, because I already talked about the concept of a token, because when you are going to pay against the LLM is being paid based on the number of token the LLM process in a particular turn. Suppose you write a prompt, an LLM is going to generate a response for you, right? So in that case, how many token, how many word is being generated, including the how many word was used in the prompt, that is going to be accountable in terms of setting the price that you need to pay while you are using this LLM. So token is something very, very important, right? Because more token means more money that you have to pay. So I can control that all the response that I'm looking for. I want the maximum token has to be in between 150. Means net the 150 word, not more than 150 word. So I'm just giving because one token equivalent to one word, but not exactly the same rule would be applied. Sometimes your full stop or can be, or maybe your special character also can be treated as a one token. But we are not going into a very specific at this moment. So net that what you need to understand about the token is the smallest unit of your the prompt and the response that is always being calculated while you are going to pay for the LLM that you consume from an application. So we started talking about the LangChain object to initialize in order to connect to the LLMs with the structured one. So here we can change the value. We can put more as you go on. So you can add more parameters into this particular object. But to give you a quick understanding that I'm doing. Another important aspect that I talked about, the LangChains allow us to create some kind of templates. Now, I already explained what is the meaning of the templates. So prompt template, we are going to get it from the LangChain libraries, allow us to create a templates that is going to be used by an individual while they will be interacting with the LLM. So here it says, you'll be writing a query, but while you will be sending the query to the LLM, you have given a special instruction saying that you are an AI assistant, answer the following questions. It's a very generic one, but we can make it very specific going forward. I'll show you that what will happen if I change that value of this template. And that's the beauty of the template, because your template remains same, but the values against those variable will change based on the need. Right? So that is a kind of very small template, but making no mistake to make you understand what template is all about. It can be very robust, but your concept remain the same. So template is a reusable component in a LangChain applications. The value can be changed every time we go and make use of the templates from our workflow, because eventually we'll be connect all of them in a workflow that is called a chain. The chain is means we can create a chain of activities by plugging all of them what we have independently created. As of now, we have created an LLM representation object, we have created a template. In fact, the another aspect of an your LangChain is something to work with the memory. So this is another, I'm just keep going. One is the LLM object, then the templates, then I'm talking about the memory. Now, when you do the conversations with an LLM, so what I have asked in my previous questions, if I want to retain in that conversation context, I can do that in the application itself by writing a code, by writing a LangChain's library-based code, that it become more robust, that you can consider every time based on the previous conversation that I have, that my LLM can pick from those conversations and fine tune my response every time that we ask questions, every time I send prompt to the LLM. So how do you configure that? So you are creating a memory object, and then you are creating a chain of the conversations by putting LLM and the memory in this place. So two things that we. And now what you are saying even, so you are creating a method that can be reusable to generate the response where you are doing everything in person, like saying that conversation is already being set. And then on top of that, you are building the templates. So what essentially you are saying, that every conversation will based on the structured LLM, which can be changed the values, which is incorporate the memory management within the applications, and which is also incorporated a template to give an instruction to the LLM under which context the LLM is going to respond every time that you are going to ask questions. Right? So that is something that you can see this putting things together, but eventually from where I'm calling it, I straight go back. I'm not skipping few of them. So I'm just going and calling this application from here itself. So if I type something and then I click on the generate response button, so it will go and call the get OpenAI response along with the user input. But if I go on the top, the functions that I'm calling get OpenAI response, but get OpenAI response is taking a prompt, which is being collaborated with the templates, which is being collaborated with the conversation object, which is already being set with the help of LangChain. So LangChain is capable of putting things together, right? So that is something what we are doing at this moment. So the backbone of this application development is being driven by the LangChain. So rest of this just an ornamental things what we are talking about. The another option also I'm just putting it because I can, this is a very general kind of conversations that we can go. But here I said I can upload my own data and then I can ask some questions like summarize this document. But while I'm getting a response, I'm getting a response by using reusable the same, or it is going back to the memory, going back to the LLM object, it's going back to the prompt templates. So my context may be different. Sometimes I'm asking my LLM to do something. I'm uploading a files and I'm asking that summarize whatever it may be. Okay, whatever the comments that we are talking about, or I'm directly asking a questions. But while I'm asking a question, it is not going directly. So it is going to be controlled by the prompt template. So if I change the template values, it will start responding in different way altogether. Right? So let's make it very simple. So how? So let's run this application. So I'm going to run this application by just using Streamlit run because I'm using a Streamlit framework to get an UI. It become easy to interact with the applications. All right. So you can see it now. This is application is up and running in a particular, this is the warning. Don't worry about that. So here it is where the local host, this two place where this application is up and running. So I can just go and say hello. And I can click on generate response. So it is giving me, hello, how can you help you today? It means it has gone to the LLM by applying the templates through the LangChains, controlling the response by setting the temperature and the max token count. All these things is being applied internally to make these things happen. But I can go and ask questions. So what is the population of India? So this is a question that I'm asking. So according to the model that I am using, it says this model was trained sometime in 2021. So it is giving me the response. You can see that the response that is given according, but you are trying to make this response limited with 150 token, means the token, one token is one word. If I increase the token, so you will see more words into the response, right? But we have given the restriction because I want to control the cost of using the LLM also at the same time. Okay. Now, this is one thing that we are. So you can go and ask any questions because this is a more generic. We are not making it specific to a particular kind of domains or a particular set of documents, what we talk about vectorizations and so on and so forth. So you can go on and asking questions. The LLM, the default LLM that you have used behind your application is going to respond to it. At the same time, another features also I put it because I'm reusing the same in the same application to try to give you the two different functionality. One is a direct communication that we are doing, and another you are just uploading a text file and you are asking LLM to generate the summary from that particular text file. So you said you start using, but you cut this halfway because you are not able to complete the summary because you have given the restriction of 150 words, means 150 tokens. But you got the summary of this kind of the text file that I have uploaded to the LLM. So LLM come back and talks about, and this is the text file that I have uploaded. So it is there in the desktop. This is the text file that I have uploaded. It's all about LangChains and something they're talking about here. So this is what precisely that we get, the summaries. So you can ask anything because we just simply go and use the prompt like this. Now I will go and change something here. You are an Xbox customer support AI assistant. You only questions only. So I have changed this. I'm making it more specific. So you are an Xbox customer support AI assistant. You only answer Xbox related questions. So my file is automatically going to save because I just put the auto save. I don't have to save it. I have to go and rerun my application. So I'll go and rerun my application. Okay, so now I will go and ask the same questions. Okay, so I have already updated. Now I'm going to ask the same question. Like say, starting with hello only, like we did before. Just look at this, how this response is completely changed from the last time. How can I assist you with an Xbox related questions today? Still, I'm going to go and ask what is the population of India. So again, I'm asking this question. Look at this. So it says, I'm sorry, but I'm specifically designed to assist with the Xbox related query. I do not have informations on the population of India. So if you have any questions about the Xbox product and service, feel free to ask. So you have controlled the conversations. You have created a restricted context by just doing the manipulations from the template that we talked about. So you have not changed the template. You have just simply gone and changed the value, how you want this particular LLM to act on, right? So this is something what we can do by changing this. Coming back to the original one in a generic one. So this is how we can see. So I have used couple of more things also. And I have an applications also for doing the vectorizations, working with the Pinecone vectorized database by using LangChains. So data is uploaded, document is going to go into the Pinecone database. It will convert into this, into the vector by using the embedding models that we talked about. So this is again, right? So we are here to use then embedding models who can do the vectorization of my documents while it is getting stored in the Pinecone database. Right? So this is a kind of, because here also we are using a same set of, the only difference is that here I am going and talking to the Pinecones. It's one of the most used vector database in today's context the LangChain developer are using. But without getting into, also there are other way of implementing LangChain also. I'll just go and one more example also show you that. Look at this again, another code that I'm kind of using here. Here also we are using a LangChain, the same kind of programming structure, but this is the React application. So we just need to upload the document. So your domain specific document would be uploaded. Then you are going to read the PDF. These are documents mean PDFs, right? You will create a multiple chunk out of this PDF that you have uploaded. Then with the help of the embedding models, you will convert them into a vectors by configuring that, store into a memory storage. Here we are not using any Pinecone database or any other database. Here in-memory vector storage is also possible. We can store vectorized content within the memory also. Like this. Okay. So I am just trying to give you this kind of the insight, but we have already seen that how this is working, but it is always going into the advanced implementations of, we talked about like the other components, like using the lang graph and or working with the tools and the agent putting together to make it more robust. So this is to begin with your development journey with the LangChain libraries, which is one of the most popular libraries people talks about today around the LLM, large language model. And it can control everything that we supposed to do within our enterprise today while we will be developing our domain specific chatbot with the help of generative AI, artificial intelligence. Okay, so with that, hope you got the kind of the workflows, kind of the implementations around the LLMs, the kind of APIs, I mean, the packages from the LangChains that I have been talking about. I guess you got a fair ideas altogether. So with that, so I'm just going to, I will be thanking you, all of you. So before I leave, so if you have any questions that if you have in mind, so you can please do ask by typing your questions through the chat bot. So I'll be happy to answer your questions. Thanks once again. Thank Navjot for moderating these sessions once again.
No worries, Nabha. Um, so before we conclude, I kindly ask everyone to take a moment to complete the feedback form shared in the chat. Your feedback is invaluable in helping us enhance the future sessions. So, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to Nabhya Jyoti for delivering such an informative and engaging session today. I trust that you found the insights as valuable as I did. And for those who missed any part of the session or wish to revisit the material for today's session, a recording will be provided on Data Couch's YouTube channel. The link to the recording will be shared on our social media channels and in our monthly newsletter. So, if you have any further questions or would like to explore any additional resources, please feel free to reach out to us at hello@datacouch.io. So, to stay updated in our upcoming sessions and access more valuable content, please subscribe to our social media channels and join our meetup groups. The relevant links are available in the chat. So, thank you for your participation today. We look forward to welcoming you at our next event. Wishing you a wonderful rest of the day or the evening, and have a great weekend. So, if anybody have any questions, please do let us know.
Okay, so